Meeting will come to order, please. Donald Lee, Right to Know Law Meeting Checklist. As Chairman of the Select Board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, in accordance with the Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location observed and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone and additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 1-646-558-8656 and entering meeting ID A812-3293-8154, and the password is 515932, or by entering the same information through zoom.us, zoom.us, and B, providing public notice of necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Lee's website at leenewhampshire.org, LEENH.org. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-659-5414. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled to another time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the Right to Know law. Mr. Brown.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Mr. Bugby.
I'm here and nobody's in the room.
Mr. LaCourse, I am here and nobody's in the room. First order of business, Chief Gonsfield.
So what the board has before them is a grant application that you've already signed. This is an amended document where they've added some language to ensure that we as the police department would not discriminate any of our officers based on race, ethnicity, and so on from doing these grants. Basically, it's just in the highlighted area, it's just the language that they added, the federal government added. That's basically all it is.
Pretty small print, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Requires magnifying glass. I move to accept the New Hampshire Highway Safety Grant Agreement amended.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Bugby?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse, yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you.
Public Works Manager.
All right, so I was coming before you guys tonight to ask if we could buy some 4 windows and a new door for the old fire station, the front building. The windows that are in it are the original ones. They're single pane. They're cold. You can hear conversations that the kids have waiting at the bus stops from across the street. They don't lock. We lock them with wooden dowels because they slide. And then the outsides of them are starting to rot. And then the door to the back of the shop is a solid metal door, and it's starting to rust at the bottom. And when it's real cold out in the wintertime, the whole entire inside of the door turns white with frost. So it would go twofold as tightening the building up to try to reduce oil energy costs and Also give more privacy to the office so people can't hear conversations from the outside.
So where is this coming from?
It'd come out of the highway budget.
On this year, I assume?
Yes.
Do you have any idea of the estimated cost?
It would be no more than $3,000. My guess is somewhere probably around $2,300, but we don't know what it looks like once we take the old windows out, if there's any more rotten wood on the front of the building that we can't see or not.
Questions from the board?
John, you already asked the two questions I was going to ask, but I had an additional one. Steve, can you speak about what you're going to replace the window and the doors with?
The back door is, right now, the door is, it's like a double wide door, so it's two doors on one frame. We're going to take the door out and just put a single metal door in it, since we don't need the wide door in the back. We have 3 garage doors in the front. And then the 2 big windows in the front, we were just going to replace with 2 double hungs in each spot.
But the windows you're going to have, what is it going to be, like double glazed with?
Yeah, double glazed with vinyl, double hung with screens.
So they're like insulated ones.
Yes.
All right. The same thing with the door. Is the door going to be insulated too?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, any questions?
No questions, let's do it.
Anybody else have a question?
I'm all set.
All right. Therefore, I move to approve the request to replace the department's bay door that has started to rust and to make it weather tight. And what was it? The windows as well. For a second.
Oh, would you also include that the monies are coming from the highway operating budget, John?
I would take that as a friendly amendment, yes.
I will second that then.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Brown?
Yes,
Mr. Bugby?
Yes.
Mr. LaCourse, yes. Motion carries. Okay, Steve, what else you got?
It was to discuss from the last meeting, paving, because I thought we had left it as Linda was going to come up with a report and we were going to discuss it more. I did talk to Pike, and the answer I gave the gentleman from Pike is the answer he's getting from a lot of towns. A lot of towns are pushing them off. So we're not doing anything that anyone else is doing. Everyone's doing the same thing we are.
Well, Linda, are you there?
Yes.
Well, you have the floor.
Well, actually, I had sent everything to Julie. I think she was going to talk about it in a little bit later on, or?
Well, we might as well talk about it now because I need to get information about the highway plan.
Okay. So right now, Julie's put up this, I don't know whether you want to talk about it, Julie, or, but at the moment, we are, I would say, running about equal as to last year. We just got the CoreLogic is the third party that collects money, and that's the real big one. We just got that in, and I'm going to be uploading the data into the system. And we did receive their check, so that's $2 million that will be added to. Okay, Julie's added that, so that is through today. With that, without that amount, it's about. Let's see. It's a little more than where we were this time last year. So the money, as far as the taxes at this moment, are equal, or we haven't seen any decrease from last year. There's no, I mean, people are paying their taxes.
I guess the question comes down, so hopefully we expect that to continue. I guess the, you know, Steve is asking whether he should go ahead and get the roads paved. Is that correct, Steve?
Yeah, or at least like talk to him to get on the schedule and award the bid to Pike is what I'm looking to do. That way we can sign the contract. But like I said, a lot of towns have been waiting, so it's really up to you guys. The only issue I saw coming, and I think Julie can talk more about it, because from what I understand is we might not get all the highway block grant money from the gas tax and stuff like that. Is I think the only concern I had is that we might be short there.
Julie, you there?
Yeah, that's correct. There was some early indication from the NHMA that we might not receive all of the highway grant money. But then they were also talking about the state using federal money to supplement what they're collecting from the gas tax. So it's still somewhat up in the air. We still don't know yet what the state is going to do.
Comment from the board?
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought we were going to hold on this until mid-July, and Linda could give us a report in terms of what was coming in.
Okay.
That's my concern. So I would like us to wait until like mid-July when, people start paying, because it's due July 1st. So I would like to wait until then.
Mr. Brown?
Well, I think I'd agree with Scott on that. I would also wonder if there is some roads out there that, if you would be at the top of the list to be paved, and we could go ahead and maybe look at that, but don't do all of the roads, just those that are, if you would, critical relative to being paved.
Yeah, on the list, all the roads that we have on the list, except for one, would be critical, because we moved them up. We switched the schedule around and moved roads that were supposed to get paved next year to this year, because they were in worse shape than any of the roads that were due to get paved this year. So we
Okay.
already flip-flopped the schedule around for that reason,
Okay.
because they were more critical.
So there's no real advantage at this point. Everything's critical.
Yeah, and the guy's been, I already told him that told him a week and a half ago that I might not, or that I probably wouldn't even have an answer for him tomorrow from tonight's meeting. Because Scott, you're right, we did say mid-July, but then we'd also talked about Linda's report. So that's the only reason I was even going to bring it up tonight.
Okay. Well, I think at this point that we have, and I happen to agree, I remember the discussion we had last time, long as seems like everybody else is doing this, we still have Pike's attention at this point. So let's bring it up again next time we meet, see where we are.
All right.
Anything else, Dave?
Well, Scott wanted to talk, I don't have anything, but Scott wanted to talk about the transfer station.
All right, shoot, Scott.
I had a conversation with Chief Dronsfield today about this. And I did not witness this firsthand, but in the neighborly discussion group, there were some people that weren't very happy. They came Saturday morning, I guess people were not social distancing. They were sitting there chatting, gabbing. So that's a concern to me. And Chief Dronsfield and I talked about it, and he told me all the things that Steve's done at the transfer station. I'm wondering if we can do something in terms of, I don't know, maybe put up a sign that says, if you don't social distance, we're going to force you to wear a mask when you come to the transfer station. I'm just concerned that we've got people in the population that are very concerned. They're at risk, and they come to the transfer station. All these people are acting like, oh, everything's normal. I'm going to do my chatting. And I'm going to get within 6 feet of people and closer. So that's my concern. I think we need to at least have a conversation about it. Maybe we decide to do nothing. Maybe we put up a sign. Maybe we say, everybody's got to wear a mask from now on. So I thought we could have that discussion.
Well, maybe we should do the same thing we did about the dog issue in Little River Park, put it in the e-crier and say that we've noticed, just like what you had said, that some people are falling, well short of the, social distancing and continue to talk and having, discussions. And if this keeps up, we're going to make a forceful decision to basically to require everybody to wear masks. I think it's always good to do a warning first, like we did with the dog population. That way it's an educational thing. And then if it doesn't respond, then I have no problem requiring people to wear masks.
So we have been putting in the e-crier a lot of information about the transfer station and about staying 6 feet away. The gentleman that started the most recent discussion on Neighborly has made the same comment before. So it's usually the same person who is talking about people not social distancing or wearing masks. There are other people that comment that they see most people wearing masks. So for him, it seems to be a matter of perception.
Is that something, I know we have video surveillance, well, not surveillance, let's not use that word. Video monitoring at the transfer station. Can we take a quick look at that and see how bad it is?
I watch it all the time because I
Yeah.
chase people that throw stuff over the wall and stuff that aren't supposed to. I'd say 85 to 90% of the people wear masks.
And how about the people that don't social distance?
I don't see all that much. The only time that they don't social distance and the only way and we've tried solving it, is when they walk behind each other. When the person's facing the wall, someone will walk behind them. That's the only time I really see it. I don't see all that much chit-chatting going on in there.
Okay. Well, I went on Saturday afternoon after I saw that. And like I told the chief today, there was 2 to 3 people, so it wasn't busy. And I suspect Saturday morning it's even busier. I don't know. Usually I try to go Tuesdays and Thursdays because it's less busy, but I'm not there at the peak time, so I don't know. So
Tuesdays have actually become the busiest day in there. A lot of people have tried not going on the weekends. So the 2 days during the week have gotten a lot busier, and Saturday hasn't gotten as busy or has dropped off. But
Karen, did you want to comment?
I'm
Yes,
sorry?
we've had we've had a couple complaints. We've put out, as Julie said, several articles in the e-crier. We've put several things on Neighborly warning people and requesting people. And as you probably know, we went about a month ago, we all had a meeting down there in the orange line, so everybody stays in the box, shutting the side door on Saturdays. There's been a lot of things to try to help things move along, and a lot of education has been put out there, but you just can't please everybody, and you can't make everybody, unless you make masks mandatory. Not everybody thinks you should wear a mask, so you're not going to ever convince those people.
Well, I feel that we probably should have put a stronger warning, just like we did about the dog issue in the e-crier, and somehow put a notice over in the transfer station. And then we'll visit this again. And if it still seems like there's people who are not, following the rules and regulations set by the governor and so forth, then we'll go ahead and force the issue to make everybody wear a mask.
who can we have do that, John?
Excuse me?
Steve,
yeah,
do you want us to change the sign?
yeah. I mean, we might as well. We'll just
It's
leave
been
the-
there long enough saying that you're closing the port. People should know it by now.
Hopefully.
We'll change that tomorrow.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
that's fine. And I'll try to put more signs inside. My only problem with adding more signs inside, there's already so much we wrote down for people to read. I think they're just going to get overwhelmed.
All right.
You know what I mean? If we can, because there's already stay in your box that we put out, 1 person per box. There's already other signs on the poles that say you should social distance and everything else. I just think if we add more in the building, we're just going to overwhelm people, and they're not going to read them because they've already been reading them.
Okay. Well, I agree with John. We need to give them at least a warning. If we're even contemplating saying you go to the transfer station, you have to wear a mask, we need to give them a heads up that that's going to happen unless they start social distancing properly.
So pretty strong language in the e-crier, please. And at least you have to post something somewhere, Steve. I understand the situation.
No, I mean, I'll put it on I'll have Denise put it on the TV screen, and we'll put it on the message board outside.
All right, that sounds good.
John,
Yes,
can we ask the party queen to put something on Neighborly from the town?
please.
Erin, that's you.
Thank you. I suspected that was me.
Yes. I would request from now on that when Karen attends these, that she has on her tiara, her party queen tiara.
Oh, brother. We're not even halfway through the agenda yet. Sounds good. Anything else, Steve?
No, that's it. That's all I had.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Town administrator.
So you may have noticed that the town clerk has changed the way town clerk tax collector, their operation slightly. They're still not open to the public, but they now have a pop-up tent and a walk-up window. You still have to make an appointment. I think though that a number of people are seeing the pop-up tent, and because of the change from the governor to stay at home to safer at home, and the fact that there are other town halls and city halls opening up, people I think are now just showing up. We've certainly posted it on the website and put notices out, and I guess we're just going to have to keep doing that. I think Liz tries to accommodate people that just show up, but I know that it can get very hectic. So
I got a grease board and put an actual, I don't know, probably 3x4 sign that we wrote on that said by appointment, and there's other verbiage on there that you can still email, do online or mail or put it in the Dropbox. But we're also trying to accommodate. We definitely want to keep the appointments for the longer, possible longer transactions, because without both of us in the office, if one gets tied up with an issue, then before the other could take up the others, people that are coming in. So we are still making appointments for what we feel are the longer transactions. And then if we are open, there's an open time or open slot, yes, we are taking tax payments and doing the registrations, just straight renewal that takes only a few minutes. But it has helped streamline a bit the cumbersome calling on the phone saying how much, this is how much the check's going to be. We'll call you in a minute when it's ready and all that. So I think it helps there.
Can I ask Linda a question?
Please.
Linda, can you update us? And I don't know if there's anybody listening, but people watch this afterwards. What's the policy now from the state? If you have a new car, is it good until such and such a time? What's that new rule?
So when you buy a car now, you have the 20-day plates. All 20-day plates that were done prior to May 31st all expired on May 31st. So, and I think it has slowed down a little bit since the onslaught of when that first happened, the end of May, everybody with the new cars needed to get their cars registered. So it has slowed a little bit. There are appointments on occasion that aren't, slots that aren't taken. So it slowed down a little bit. But
So
yeah,
registrations that are due in June, you have until the end of June to do those.
that is correct.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else on this subject? Okay, let's move on.
not for me.
Okay, continue.
So the governor has now released the restriction of 10 people or more gathering, and he didn't replace it with any other number. So there are no limitations to the number of people that can gather, but guidelines are still in place relative to social distancing. So we have actually had a request from the Census Bureau to use the public safety complex. I also had Bill Stevens set up the first floor and second floor meeting rooms to see how many people we could accommodate. So the first floor, if we tried to accommodate a 9-member planning board or zoning board meeting, we could have 12 people in the audience. On the second floor, in order to accommodate the selectmen's meeting, we could have 15 people in the audience. There isn't any reason right now, so far as guidelines from the governor's office, why we need to go back to physical meetings. I think Karen attended a call last week, and she can certainly speak to that, where DHHS was encouraging us to continue to do Zoom meetings. Karen, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, it was the DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, and NHMA at the conference, and they encouraged towns to continue doing Zoom.
Which we can still do under the current rules that we're under. So I just bring it up tonight. Like I said, the Census Bureau has asked to use the public safety complex. We told them that we were going to have to get permission from the board because as of right now, that building is still closed for public meetings. And then to also maybe just start talking about if the select board wants to go from Zoom meetings to meeting in public.
Have you heard any complaints about Zoom meetings?
No.
So we don't have any written testimony or any complaints or anything else with respect to maintaining Zoom.
No, I think Karen may have some issues on her end.
Please, Karen?
So I have issues on the zoning board end. They're the two people that would be chairman or acting chairman. Jim Banks does not want to do a Zoom meeting, but he doesn't actually want to be, his wife has some health concerns, so he's kind of stepping back. I just need to find 5 members who would do a Zoom meeting, and we haven't pushed the issue because we haven't been required to do zoning board meetings, and we're still not required. But you know, the applications are piling up, so I want to get something done. But the problem too is if we go back to a regular meeting, we only can hold 12 people. So if you have more than that show up, you have to continue the meeting. So it's tough to have a limit of only 12. I mean, 12 doesn't seem like a lot, but if you have an applicant, husband and a wife applicant, and then you have professionals that they may bring with them, 12 people, even if you just have one application at a time, you could have more than that many people. So that would present a problem in itself.
I still feel that we're in a very, limited time. I think we should maintain, it's my opinion, we should maintain Zoom a little bit longer. I don't know how much longer at this point, but we're not quite out of the woods yet. There's still obviously hotspots that are popping all over. Since we don't have any written testimony, we don't have anybody complaining by phone, except understanding that some areas are piling up. I would rather stay on Zoom a little bit longer and not move forward with a public meeting in face-to-face. What say the other board members?
I agree.
I agree as well.
I think you have your answer at this point.
Okay, so what are your thoughts relative to letting the Census Bureau use the public safety complex?
Well, what is the Census Bureau? How many people and what are they going to do in there?
Well, they weren't, unless Denise has some updated information, they weren't really clear on that.
Well, until we get some clear on this, I'm probably not going to let it happen.
Okay.
We need to get some more information. If it's somebody sitting there counting ballots or something, or I don't know.
Julie, we got that new application, remember?
I don't remember seeing the new one. I just remember seeing the old one.
Oh,
So the person that first contacted Scott Nemeth turned in an application?
not an application, but had details of what was in, what he needed. What
Okay. Do you remember how many people he needed to accommodate?
Oh. No. I don't remember the details, but they were in that. Didn't the email come through the website?
Yes.
I can check.
Chief Nemeth, do you happen to remember, or did you just pass that along?
Let me try to find it.
I just pass it along. I don't know.
Okay. All
It
right.
wasn't
Well,
that many. I think it was like 6 or 10 people. They
right,
listed all the details of everything that they're going to try and follow, but
right.
Can-
But I suppose I want to ask, how do the chiefs feel about opening the building up to the public?
That's the question I wanted to ask.
Sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine.
That means we all think the same. Good idea.
Uh-oh, that's scary.
Chief? Somebody? Chief Johnsfield?
I guess I'm not, Bill will keep up with it, keeping it clean, as long as they're keeping it sanitized over there. I don't have an issue with it.
Chief Nemeth?
I'm gonna say I don't like it, but if they're using the front main entrance only and maybe like the side entrance to exit, like we're supposed to be doing for any of their meetings, then if we keep up with disinfecting it, that's fine. But my thing is I just don't know who they are, where they're coming from, where they're staying.
Well, then, I guess I'm back to my original statement. Until I get more information that I could provide to the two chiefs and the town administrator, I'm going to put a hold on that.
Okay, we'll get more details.
Thank you.
When are they requesting? Is it within the next 2 weeks, or when are they requesting use of the facility?
I thought it was August or September.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
So we have some time to deal with this issue.
All right, we'll circle back on that.
And if it's important to know whether it's on the first floor or the second floor. All right?
Correct. Although I would probably limit them to the first floor.
I agree. Keep them off the second floor. Thank you. All right, let's move on.
So leased office space and the reopening plans. Let's talk first about the town hall COVID-19 assessment.
Please.
So at the board's direction, I contacted AECM to have them do an assessment of town hall, and my instructions to them were, what would we have to do to make this a safe place to work given the pandemic? What they first sent me on Friday didn't provide a public space for the selectman's office. They only thought the town clerk tax collector interacted with the public. So that's why you got this second report today, providing we'll just call it a landing space for the public. If you read their report, and maybe if you even somewhat read between the lines of their report, and certainly when you talk to them, they really think it's not practical. That if you had to do it and you kind of were willing to accept that you wouldn't be able to really follow all the rules, then this is what they laid out. There's a couple of problems with it. First, the way that they've configured the town clerk tax collector, they can only service one member of the public at a time, which doesn't get us anywhere. We're already doing that. That doesn't really help. I suppose it enables both Linda and Liz to be in the office at the same time, but they'd each be sealed in their offices, and they'd have to time when they left the office, and anyway, so on and so forth. For the selectman's office, I think, again, if you read the report, they say, yeah, you'd have to figure out where to put the file cabinets. And we all know that the file cabinets are heavy and can only go on certain locations so they don't fall through the floor. So the plan that they've laid out does not accommodate all of the file cabinets. In addition, it sort of seems to suggest that the town secretary now has the copy machine in her office, so we're not sure how that would work. It also doesn't make it easy for the town secretary to see when there's a member of the public coming in the building. So Denise and I talked earlier, well, maybe she and the finance officer would switch offices, but that doesn't really resolve too many of the problems. Although my instructions to them were not, see if you can make it COVID safe and do it as cheaply as possible and don't harm the historic nature of the building, that is in fact what they did. So it doesn't really work, quite frankly.
A couple of questions.
And they even suggest in the report that it would be, well, why don't you just keep working remotely? Well, the point of it was to stop working remotely.
Couple of questions on it. I read through this in detail,
Right.
and I'm looking at the plans now. Those petitions, do they go to this, right up to the ceiling, or they?
No, they're just the partitions we have now. And when I asked why they did that, they said the reason was money.
Yeah.
Two things. It was money, and in order to have everybody have an individual office, the building would have to get mechanical HVAC, which was their original recommendation anyway. And they also said that the employees would get claustrophobic because the spaces would have to be so small in order to accommodate hallways and pathways to get to the doors and get out of the building. So that's why there aren't offices. It's the same partitions.
But I also read twice in here, somewhere in the beginning and then about halfway through, that really, I think they're telling you is that it's probably not a good idea to renovate Town Hall into a municipal building. It's just not going to work with respect to
Correct,
COVID-19.
because if we were to do anything, say for any reason, if we had to cut into the brick or, you know, put in walls, although I suppose you could put walls in, you could take them down, but yes, that we would probably then not qualify for historical grants.
So it was my reading their material that they suggest a short-term solution is probably rent something else or lease it, and so we can develop a long-term solution, which to me was
Correct.
a new municipal building, because the existing old town hall was never meant to be a municipal building to begin with, and it
Right.
probably should revert back to what the Town Center Vision Committee had said, a meeting place per se.
Correct.
The assessment that was provided by the Town Vision and Town Center Vision Committee. So my sense is that I'm leaning very strongly against abandoning modifications as presented by this firm and looking for a place to lease or rent for a period of time so we can build a case again to go after a new municipal building. I know that's a lot, so I'm going to open the floor. Anybody want to speak?
You're muted.
Yeah, but that was a good comment too. Now I have to do it again.
Oh, God.
I said, I understand that's a lot of extra space at your house, John. Maybe you'd like to have some of the employees at your house. What do you think?
How sweet that is, isn't it? I love that idea. That's not a good idea. Let's hold off on that.
I kind of agree with you, John. You know, I think we need to do this particular process just to see. But I think, yeah, we need to look for someplace else to go. And then I agree with you, build a case for doing something. And basically, if we do the same thing that Barrington did, because Barrington did the same thing, except they were in that temporary space for like, what, 10 years?
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe that will give more traction, but right at the moment, people are feeling poor.
Mm-hmm.
And all this particular stuff that's going on. So maybe in 2-3 years, whatever, then we can make a better case for doing something. But I think we need to do something, maybe with the Profit Key building. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think it's an important move. We just can't, looking at the amount of cost that we'd have to put into the existing town hall, and it probably wouldn't deal with long-term restoration, just those modifications that we're seeing with if we modified it as a short-term municipal building.
Yeah.
So I don't think the cost is warranted. Now we have, I think, the town administrator and some staff within the town of Lee have identified a possible site. You want to speak to that?
Sure. Did Mr. Brown want to comment on this plan before we move on?
Well, I guess the only thing I'd want to say is, I think I just heard somebody say, well, maybe it'll be 2 or 3 years before we start doing something. I think that there is some repairs that are critical to town hall that need to be done relative to the structure of the town hall, etc. Other than that, I agree that this layout here doesn't get it done. We shouldn't spend the money to try and get it done, but it doesn't mean we should turn our backs on town hall relative to some important construction that needs to happen just to keep the building together.
No, I agree with you. I know we have an assessment from the, what the TCVC had already done, which talked about making some of those modifications to make it structurally sound. So I totally agree. It should not be abandoned. We should try to move forward to stabilize as much as possible, because it still can be, no matter what happens, if we move in to rent or lease some other building for a period of time, town has to be useful. So it still could be used as a meeting space. So it needs to have some slight renovation.
John, can I clarify something?
Please.
When Mr. Brown said 2 to 3 years, I'm talking 2 to 3 years to present something new for a new building to the town.
Yes.
I think we need to find someplace else for the staff to go. When they're in that particular place, wherever that is, then I think you can start doing the renovations for the town hall, because there'll be nobody in it, and you can do the renovations that the TCVC suggested.
Well, I think that's what we're already doing. And we went and, Julie and team went and looked at a building down there. So as soon as we get the building vacant, we can look at doing some major repairs to town hall.
Yep, because you've got money in the trust funds for doing those particular things. So first we got to get the people out. So we need to find what that space is and the cost to renovate that particular space to the configuration that we want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that should be our focus going forward.
So saying that at this time, let's hear from the town administrator what she's found out about a possible site.
Okay, so as you know, the Profit Tools building is available. And Karen and I and a couple other town employees have walked through the building, and then subsequent to that met a couple of times with their building manager, I guess facilities manager, and also a gentleman, a contractor that does a lot of work for Mr. Daly. So Karen laid out in that building where we would need new walls and service windows and doors, and met with a contractor. And so we are waiting for the price of those items. Insofar as the selectman's office, so in other words, myself, Denise, Joanne, Liz, we could move in tomorrow. Nothing needs to be done to the space at all in order to accommodate us. There's 4 bathrooms, there's a kitchen, there are multiple entrances into the building. So planning and zoning would have their own entrance, the town clerk tax collector would have their own entrance, and the selectman's office would have their own entrance. And by entrance, I mean not only for the employees, but also for members of the public, and there's plenty of parking. The email that you see here is pretty much Jim Daly laying out what his offer would be. We went back a little bit, back and forth, he and I, on this. It seems to be a pretty reasonable offer. Karen has done some investigating, and in Lee, it seems that commercial real estate leases for about $1 a square foot. So that would be $5,000. The building is 5,000 square feet. He's asking for $4,800 a month. Originally, he had proposed $4,300 a month, but then we would be responsible for the $15,000 a year tax bill. So he is now willing to offer it to us at $4,800 a month, and he pays the $15,000 tax bill. I also reached out to the Barrington Town administrator. They are still leasing space. They pay, I think, less than the $4,800 a month, but they have to pay the $13,000 a year tax bill. And I think that they had to do a lot more of the fit up when they first moved into that space than what we are going to have to do. So again, you can see basically what he's offering us in the first go around. So I guess I'd stop at this point and see if the board had any questions about the basic layout of the lease.
Got a couple of questions maybe about the layout issue. Since we're tying this to kind of a COVID-19 type of response at this time.
Right.
Can we grab money from the unassigned fund balance?
Well, yes, is the short answer. I spoke with DRA today. RSA, as you know, RSA 3211 always allows a town to petition DRA to spend money that hasn't been appropriated because of an emergency, and then typically take it out of the unassigned fund balance. We can certainly still do that. Because of Emergency Order 23, it's not necessary to have a public hearing, and DRA has committed to making a decision on it within 2 business days. In addition to that, for fiscal 20, so the budget year that's almost over, we have not spent any of our $20,000 in contingency. So that money would be available to us to do the fit up that we would need. I did also speak with John Tappan and asked that the trustees of the trust fund take up the question of, if we were in a leased building, would we be able to use any of the town building capital reserve fund money to do any work in there? So he's going to get back to us on that.
If this was to occur, do you have a suggested time when you would think it'd be reasonable? And how long do you think town hall would have to be closed while the transition was occurring?
Well, Karen and I talked about that, and we think it's doable for September 1st. I mean, a lot has to happen between now and then, but we think it can be done. I think I mentioned this to you, John, back when I was a child working for the city of Portsmouth, and the city of Portsmouth moved from downtown to the old hospital. I was in charge of that move. I think we closed the doors on a Friday and reopened on a Monday, and that was certainly a much bigger building. So I don't think that we would have to be closed for an extended period of time.
2 other questions, then I'll open the floor.
Yeah,
Because this would have to be coordinated with IT, right?
correct. Yep.
There's security issues as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'd probably, want to rekey the building. We might want to think about upgrading to some kind of pass key system where you can program different doors for different access. I've spoken to Back Bay, and I guess if the board says to keep moving forward, that would be one of the things I would do, would be to get them into the new building and give me a cost on what it would cost to move the computer equipment. That building, because it was an IT-based company, is wired to the hilt. So I think it's going to be relatively easy to just plug our computers in. We'd also have to talk about a phone system. That would probably be a voice over internet at this point. We'd have to figure out the moving costs. So yes, there are still a lot of costs that we'd have to collect. I was just hesitant to keep moving forward without checking in with the board, to see whether you're interested in doing this. So one of the next steps would also be getting the attorney to work on a lease agreement.
Final question is on access to the site, not to the building.
Right.
I know there's the other road that comes off,
George Bennett.
off Bennett Road.
Yeah,
Is that
Bunzel
tar
Lane
road or is it gravel?
Gravel.
is gravel.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
I've reached out to District 6, and they're going to review what's permitted, and because that basically the only real issue with that site is the traffic. So I reached out, I talked to the district engineer, and he's going to look into it to see what's approved and or what they would require of us to move over there. Because that is the biggest issue, is the access. And I also discussed with him, what if we, came in off of 125 and went out onto George Bennett. So we're supposed to get in touch. He's supposed to get back to me sometime, hopefully this week, and get working on what he said. It's not, it's not going to be a deal breaker, but we might have to do some things.
And Karen, that's because George Bennett is a state road, not a town road, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
They're both state roads.
Yeah.
Yep.
Floor is open for the town administrator. Any questions?
My only question is, when can we get the cost for all this stuff? because we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it.
If you are telling us to keep moving forward, then we'll work as fast as we can to get numbers for all of this.
I'm telling you that I'm in favor of you moving forward.
Okay,
So I don't know if you need a motion or just consensus from the board, but I think we should instruct Karen and Julie and whoever else is assisting to pursue these things and bring us costs as soon as possible so we can find out how much it costs and then how we're going to pay for it.
I think for me, certainly, as long as I just have consensus from the board, we'll keep moving forward.
Mr. Brown?
Well, no, I agree. I agree fully. We also need to start looking at a draft lease.
Yes, I will. I've sent all of this information to our attorney and told her I would get a hold of her tomorrow if she was to move forward.
Well, go ahead.
Excuse me for 1 second. I just wanted to say too that we looked into the price of Market Basket, and it's $2,200 for a 2,000 square foot shell, which would have a lot more fit up per side. So it would be $4,400 and a lot more fit up to get us in there. And like Chief Dronsfield pointed out, the traffic and handicap access would be difficult. Even though getting there would be easier, but once you're there, it would be harder.
But Karen, look how close you'd be to a new do.
Oh, geez.
Is that like a hint?
Yeah, that's, and in terms of traffic, in terms of the site where the Profit Key building is, that would be my consideration as well in terms of traffic. If DOT is not going to let us use the access road of George Bennett, we have to go on 125. That's kind of, I would think that would be dangerous, especially if you're going south out of Profit Key. If you're going north, that should be fine, but cutting across traffic right there is nasty.
I can't see the state not allowing that. You know, the
Okay.
only stipulation for that road from the planning board was tractor trailers.
I see.
It was used by when the
Measured progress.
Measure Progress, when they were in there, that's how their employees got in and out.
I see.
A question for the town administrator. I just want to make sure we're clear on this. We're not going to get any backfeed from anybody that's not dealing with a bid process. We're allowed to move forward without bidding.
Sure.
Okay.
When you say without bidding, without getting bids on leasing office space?
Yes.
No, you can do that.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm for this. Looks like the other two selectmen want you to move forward, so there is consensus. I would
Okay.
ask that the two chiefs stay involved with this, and of course, Karen as well, so we can move this thing forward. So if there's any modifications that are made to the outside of the building for lighting and access issues, and obviously fire code is going to be extremely important.
Okay. We'll get working on it.
Can I ask something else?
Please.
Is anybody out there going to check to see if Sonny's will deliver across the road if you move there?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I think we should install a pneumatic tube system across 125.
That sounds good.
Yep, we're gonna,
I do have a question. Is the building ADA compliant?
yes.
Okay.
And he has agreed, Jim Daly, has agreed to put in 2 additional ramps.
Okay.
So
And
that each one of the main entrance right now, what we're calling the selectman's office entrance, which is the one off that small porch,
Mm-hmm.
is already ADA accessible. And so we are going to make the entrance to the planning and zoning office and the entrance to the town clerk tax collector also be ADA by installing ramps.
And as we proceed with this, as initial, we talked about getting a release somewhere down the road, but also I think you should prepare a small report with respect of why this would be COVID accessible. In
Yeah,
the sense that the public will come in, and why is this a better choice at this time?
right. Yep.
John,
Any other, please?
can I bring up something else?
Yep.
If this moves forward, it sounds like this is something that will fly. What would be the board's intention to do after that? I know we sunsetted the TCVC. Would the board be interested to resurrect them so that after these people are out, they're in some other facility, maybe the Profit Key building, that the TCVC can work on the renovation part and also look for grants and stuff
For
for the town hall?
For the existing town hall.
Yes.
I think that's definitely a consideration, because they already did the initial work on the existing town hall to get it renovated as a meeting space, correct?
Yep. So the plan's there, but I'm thinking about funding. One of the things that has to be done if we're interested in getting funding from those programs, the state programs, LCHIP and stuff, there has to be an application done, and that's something that if that group wants to continue, can be working on because it's due next May. But there's a lot of work that goes into that. So if we come to find out that we're moving, the building's empty, September, October, whatever, at least the group can start working on those reports and those applications so they can have those things all ready. So when the deadline comes up, we can at least apply.
Comments from anybody?
No, I agree. I think it's a good idea.
Town administrator?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think we got, so let's see if you still got membership, Scott.
We
And see
have
if anybody else wants to join.
We have 4, but let's see how this all progresses. I don't want to start them off on something if, this doesn't come to fruition. It
Okay.
sounds like it will, but I don't want to start them off quite yet.
All right, I think it'd be an exciting venture to, move forward with this. Thank you. Okay, Julie, what else you got?
We did receive the stipend funds from the state for the first responders. You may recall that both the fire department and police department applied for those funds. And so we will be making the payments to the employees after July 1st.
Good. It'll be a nice little bonus. That should fit out pretty good.
Yep. Revenue report, we really already touched on that. I think Linda, as she's following along with this meeting, is probably still adding up the money. So where you see this $4,047,000, that's say as of 5 o'clock this evening, or maybe 5:30. But I know a pile of checks came in today. So, and again, you can see that through June 30th in tax year 2019, we had collected almost 73% of the revenue. With 8 days to go, we're up to almost 56%. So as we keep collecting the money, I think I'll work with Linda to keep updating this, maybe not on a daily basis, but certainly every few days so that we can make sure that we're still on track to at least hit that 73% number. If we're going to use 19, which we should, because things were pretty good in 2019, as the benchmark.
Okay. Please keep us updated. Appreciate it.
Okay. So now moving on to the out-of-state travel policy. Let me just stop here. So in terms of the town clerk revenue collected, I think we're only off by about $13,000. So we're not in bad shape there either. Lots and lots of tax revenue. Whoops, that's the letter. Sorry, I put these in backwards. All right, the travel policy. So there had been a lot of talk a couple of weeks ago with the AG's office and NHMA relative to employee travel. I think employees of a number of different municipalities are starting to think plans to go on vacation. And so it was determined that having an employee travel policy would be a good idea. Essentially, if you are traveling anywhere other than New Hampshire, Vermont, or Maine, you have to be tested immediately upon your return, and you would not be able to physically return to work until you got an all clear. So in other words, a negative COVID test. And I did confirm with our attorney that we can adopt a policy such as this. The other option would be to make employees quarantine for 2 weeks, but that I think would be pretty detrimental to every department that we have. So in addition to, let's say somebody goes on a week vacation and they traveled out of state and now they're back and they, I mean, quite frankly, essentially get another 2-week vacation that we would have to pay them. That's the other thing. We have to pay them under the new Federal Emergency Sick Leave and Family Medical Leave Act. So I know that Chief Nemeth has some issues particular to this, so he might want to speak to that.
Chief Nemeth?
My only concern is with our department and the volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that their full-time jobs take them out of the state and brings them to New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. And then they have, you know, they live up here most of the time, but their family resides in Massachusetts and they go down and see their family. So that's where I have concerns. If I got to lose firefighters for 14 days or they got to take a test, I'm going to lose them. And we're low with manpower as it is. So the couple people, I'm thinking about 5 members at least on a normal basis, they'd have to be tested or quarantined. And that's going to be a huge hit for us right now. I understand that firefighters aren't any different than anybody else. And if we travel, we're at a risk as anybody else, but I just have some concerns with this. And then with the testing, you know, if I go to New York on Friday and Sunday I come home, Sunday I leave New York, potentially getting it that day, testing Sunday night or Monday probably is going to reveal that I have COVID or not. So then we have somebody that's in the office space that came back from these places that could be positive, but they got a negative result.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And I totally agree with Julie. I just got to worry about our personnel and that if they're traveling for their full-time jobs, then I might be losing a couple people because of us.
And I just realized today, I have family in Massachusetts that I visit, and Bill's parents live in Massachusetts too. So how would that work? I think it's a great idea, but it's just trying to figure everything out.
Can I ask why Vermont and Maine?
Yeah.
Why that?
Yeah, Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire, there's a graph that we see that the EOC puts out, and picture, you know, New Hampshire and Vermont are down here in terms of the number of COVID cases, and then the other New England states are way up here. So it's just tracking to the number of cases and states that have done a good job limiting the number of cases and how they handled the lockdown.
I see.
I mean, I know Massachusetts is locked down, but they still got a lot of cases.
Yeah. Well, my issue, well, I have lots of issues just like everybody else, but business travel, it says all non-essential interstate travel other than travel to Maine and Vermont. I don't think there's any interstate travel that is essential at this particular time. So I don't think we should be sending our people on business trips any place at the moment. So
Well, I know that from time to time, the police department and fire department send their employees out of state. So that was just.
Well, I understand that, but I think in terms of the situation that we're in at the moment, I don't think the town should condone sending anybody on business travel at this particular time.
For that reason, we don't have anything scheduled.
Yeah.
The reason why this came about is vacations. So
yeah,
I have an officer who got married.
Yeah.
During all of this, wasn't able to have their honeymoon or anything like that. He and his new wife would like to travel. A lot of people, my officers included, are getting cooped up. Yep. And they want to they want to take some vacation.
Well,
I just don't want to have a policy that's going to deter them from getting some mental health days.
No, I understand the chief, but I'm talking about business travel, chief.
Yeah. And like I said, I think Julie put that in there to cover it, but we mainly were talking about personnel taking vacation time.
All right. Yeah, those are two different things for me. But for business travel, I don't think there should be any business travel at all.
Agreed.
So, in terms of personnel, that's something different. So,
I mean, we can't prevent employees from going on vacation. Well, I take that back. We can. Vacation.
I don't think they'll take that kindly.
Vacation always has to be approved by the supervisor, by the department head. But I don't know of any instance where we've told an employee, no, you can't go on vacation.
Yeah.
So,
I think we should make a phased approach, and I'll get to you in a minute. in the sense that maybe we'll modify this plan to talk, as Mr. Bugby had brought up, tie it only to business travel associated with, the staff of the town of Lee.
Okay,
Tie into personal at this time. That's something we can look a little bit later. At least it puts it out to the public that we are concerned. We're going to limit travel, especially it's business type travel. Okay, Mr. Brown.
Well, we're telling people already under personal travel, if they travel outside the US or to any other state other than Vermont or Maine, then when they get back, they have to do the following. So they don't come back to work. They don't, if you would, mingle with the employees, et cetera, until such time as they get the medical clearance.
right.
I think that does exactly what we need to do. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep them from traveling to Vermont in a day, or Maine, for dinner or whatever. So, I think we have it covered. Whether they adhere to it or not, who knows? But we're telling them if they go on vacation, when they come back, if they visited any of those places, then they have to get a medical release.
Well, we could also just, as Mr. Bugby says, we can say no travel that's for, business type of travel. And we can lessen the language and just use it as an educational platform to say you should,
Right.
but if must with respect to vacations or anything else. It puts the onus on the employee
Yeah.
for themselves. I think I'd rather go that way.
Okay.
Okay, but the paragraph should be there, because you don't know tomorrow if somebody, for whatever reason, we have to dispatch somebody to Maine or to whatever. So we're covered if that has to happen.
That's why I want to wordsmith it a little bit.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if the chiefs or maybe Karen can answer the question. How easy is it for people to get a test these days?
I got tested last week. I made an appointment on Wednesday. I got tested Friday at 3. I got the antibody tested and the other test, and I had my results 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
So it's like 4 days.
I was just told that it was going to be 6 to 7 days.
So for your results?
Yeah.
They told me that too, and I had them the next day. My mother was tested Monday at 2, and she had her results Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
And that's both antibodies and COVID-19 current.
Well, I'll let you know.
But Julie,
I agree that it creates a lot of issues. As I said, I don't know what the answer is.
so in this policy, it says obtain a written release from your medical provider in addition to the test. So you have to go through your doctor?
Well, no, essentially, and it could be rewritten. I borrowed this from somebody. You just need it in writing. You can't just show up at work and say, yeah, I had a negative test.
Oh, so the test could come from where Karen got it.
It can come from anywhere, anywhere legit, and you just have to have the results in writing.
Oh, okay.
What they do is you sign, you get the app, the Quest. I went to the Quest Health Lab in Epping. You get the app and you sign on the app, and then they send you your results right to your app. So they're in writing.
Okay.
So I guess we'll wordsmith this a little bit more.
Yeah, and I don't know whether from a medical standpoint or a getting COVID standpoint, it makes any difference if you try to draw a distinction between Karen goes and visits her family for a few hours in Massachusetts, or someone is on a plane or a train or a bus going across the country.
Mm-hmm. That's why we should, because of COVID times at this point, and we should limit any business travel.
Right,
You agree? And the other side is more of a should.
right.
So let's wordsmith it and loose it up a little bit more.
Okay.
And also, like Nemeth said, getting tested right when you get back, is that going to be an accurate test?
I don't know. I mean, the alternative is they either come back to work
Right.
or you let them, or you quarantine them. And somewhere they quarantine and get a test. Or get a test halfway through. I don't know. I don't know. It's
You
That's
can
why-
only
an
try.
imperfect situation.
That's why we leave it on their own benefit
Right.
in the sense of it's a should, not a must,
Right,
and they have to make the call personally.
right. Strongly urged.
Strongly,
One of my officers got deployed recently to the Guard. And when he was gone for 4 days, when he came back, we took his temperature, went through the COVID questions on that document that we had gotten, and, you know, at least we did something.
Right.
exactly.
John, can I ask Julie a question?
Sure.
Julie, and I assume you've done this, but maybe you haven't, in terms of reach out to your managers group and see what other towns doing with this regard to this
Well,
particular.
that's what kind of drove this. There was a lot of conversation about it over the past couple of weeks.
I just think we need to do our due diligence
Right.
when we have people coming in. And like the chief and I were talking today, some people are very religious. They wear their mask, they do all their stuff. And then there's a small group of individuals that don't give a darn and they'll do whatever. And I think we
Well,
protect
the-
our people.
The board can mandate mask use on town property.
Oh, cool.
So when we reach the point where town employees, at least from my perspective, are going to be working in the same place at the same time, then we're going to have a policy for that.
Well, maybe you can include that with this particular thing
Yep.
or another
Okay.
section.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
suggestion.
Next item, our letter to the Oyster River Cooperative School District, I think, caused some conversation on their end, and I know it did. So I think that's what this is rising out of a result of, is the letter that the board sent to the school district. So they are asking for two representatives from each town. Although they say it could involve a selectman/counselor and town manager or business administrator, it doesn't say that that's who it has to be. So one of the people that I thought of was Dean Rubine, because I know he's been very involved in matters related to the district in the past.
I think it's an important opportunity. I think we should have representation on there. And hopefully this is no munitive with respect to our representative to the school board, because this would be on the finance committee, correct?
Correct.
And the opportunity is to see what the finances are and maybe to provide opinion. So the floor is open for nominations. Dean sounds like a possible candidate. Does anybody else want to get involved and work with this particular finance committee?
I will do it. I'm not sure in terms of, if we can ask Dean if he's agreeable to doing it.
Well, they're looking for two people anyway, so.
So, the thing is, my inclination would be to work with them to figure out how this is going to work, especially if all our tax revenue comes in the middle of July, we're good. If it doesn't, that's when this particular group is going to be important for the town of Lee, to work with them to say, hey, we're short by $1.5 million. You know, we need to come to some kind of understanding in terms of how that's going to work. So that is my concern. And I think they've heard it from the letter. So.
No, I think you would be an excellent choice, Scott, because you've been right on this from the beginning, asked important questions of the superintendent. I think Dean would be a nice addition too. So unless I hear anything else, maybe the town administrator could reach out to Dean.
Yep, I will do that.
Is there anybody else who wants to volunteer, so I'm not leaving anybody out? I just hear silence. Okay. It's an important meeting. I'm glad they're opening the door at this point, and I agree with Scott. It'll be important if we get an exceptional bill like we normally do, and all of a sudden we just don't have the revenues to cover those costs. And this is where it's going to really it'll be an important role at that time.
If Mr. Rubine is not interested, I'd certainly be willing to step in if no one else wants to go forward other than Mr. Bugby.
I think that would be an excellent choice as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were my first choice, Julie.
Oh, thank you. I just know he's been very involved over the years.
Yeah. Well, he goes to a lot of meetings anyways.
Right.
So,
Right.
I think we solved that issue. Thank you very much.
All right. And I think that is all I have. You know, we continue to tweak our schedule here all the time, just as needs arise, and to try to make operations as easy as possible for both the employees and the other department heads and the public. So I think it's, you know, it's still working, but I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I'm definitely fraying at the edges. So I'd be very anxious to be able to get back to some semblance of normalcy.
Mhm. We are definitely social creatures. It's hard to just live through virtual people all the time.
Mhm.
I agree.
Hey,
Right.
Julie, I found that letter, that request from the census clerk. I don't know if you guys are interested in knowing more about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's asking for one big room or two rooms to conduct training on August 4th, August 6th, August 7th, and August 8th. The training sessions are small groups of 6 with one trainer to do administrative work and receive their devices. So this is to get everyone going to do the work in the area.
Okay.
Well, first of all, we're not interested in the second floor, only the first floor, so it would only be one room anyways if we proceed.
Right.
What do the chiefs think?
And it's, oh, I'm sorry, and it's 8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So I've had numerous discussions with Bill on the importance of making sure that that gets cleaned properly. He seems to have a good plan in place, he and Kristen. So,
I guess, do we think that this is going to open the door to other groups wanting to get
Well, that-
back into that building?
that's the thing. If you say yes to one, you got to say yes to them
Right.
all, right?
Right,
I'm sure the river people are waiting.
right.
Mhm.
So maybe we should hold off for a little bit longer.
I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you. You all done, Town Administrator?
Yes.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented. Mr. Bugby?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bugby,
I'm sorry?
looking for a roll call vote.
Oh, no discussion, Mr. John?
Do you have discussion?
I have one question, and it's for Karen Rossi.
Please.
One of the things that's come up before in terms of this whole intent to cut issue, I assume there's no easements on this particular property?
None.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wow,
I'm done discussing.
thank you. Any other discussion?
Actually, I'd just like to update on the fair. The fair committee is meeting July 15th to discuss whether or not to have a fair this year. If they decide to go forward with the fair, it's still the select board's final decision whether or not we have a fair. So something you might want to start thinking about.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Karen, what's their drop dead date in terms of having a fair or not?
July 15th, yes or no? And because we're behind the 8 ball in planning.
Okay,
If we
Okay.
have a fair, there's a lot of restrictions that have to be followed,
yeah.
I agree.
and there's no exceptions.
Fireworks?
I'm sorry.
So if we didn't have a fair, I don't think we would have fireworks, but that's not my decision. I
Mhm.
would assume we would cancel everything.
Okay.
We received a letter today to the board from some people on High Road. Are we going to discuss that?
Yes, we'll do it under miscellaneous.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think what Karen wanted to do was put that on for the next agenda
Correct.
so that we can give the people who are involved an opportunity to be at the meeting.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Mr. Bugby, what's your vote?
Yes,
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. LaCourse, yes. Okay, motion carries. Next thing is miscellaneous unfinished business. I still have one piece of unfinished business. I'd like to know what's going on with the treehouse. And has the letter been delivered and the communication been made? It's getting a little late.
there's no update. It's the same as the last time we met. So no, nothing has happened. We're still, well, I'm concerned in terms of Ricky's health, in terms of, having contact with him. So,
Well, I'd like to move this forward somehow.
I don't know what to tell you, Mr. John. Are people comfortable enough for having meetings? Or, I don't know.
Karen, are you comfortable enough? Is she there?
I'm
She's-
here, comfortable enough for what?
Meeting with Mr. Stevens at the treehouse?
Sure, who's coming with me? Because I have no idea what the outcome of that meeting was. So is Julie coming with me?
Well, it was supposed to be Deb Sugarman and myself. Is it, I guess, from the professionals we have here, what are your thoughts in terms of meeting with Mr. Stevens, health-wise? What do you think?
Has he indicated that he doesn't want to meet?
I haven't specifically asked him. I told him our indication was to wait until pandemic issues were done because of his medical issue.
Well, I mean, I guess in the first instance, I'd find out whether he's willing to meet. It could
Okay.
certainly be a meeting outside
Okay.
where everybody is, 10 feet apart. And if he's more comfortable with everybody wearing masks, then everybody wears masks.
All right, so why don't I do this? Why don't I contact him, find out if he's amenable to meet, and if so, if there's any, concerns he has.
I want to make sure you got to be comfortable doing this, Scott, though. If you're not comfortable,
I'm okay with it as long as I'm not within 6 feet of him or inside, so,
okay, so I'd like to move forward with this. So why don't you make that, phone call and
all right,
move forward as best as you can.
and I'll check with Deb too.
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right,
Any other miscellaneous business out there?
Nope.
Well, I appreciate everybody coming and doing these virtual meetings. I think I can see all faces, so it still looks like we're still together to some extent. All right, if there's nothing else, I move to adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank